click, whir, thump. Before the silent tap of a keyboard or the sterile glow of a smartphone, this was the sound of opportunity. It was the sound of connection. It was the sound of business itself. Imagine a world without Google Contacts, without Outlook, without even a simple digital spreadsheet. Now imagine you're a top salesperson in 1975. Your entire career, every client, every lead, every handshake doesn't live in the cloud. It lives in a box on your desk. A heavy rotating machine filled with hundreds, maybe thousands of little paper cards. This wasn't just a piece of office equipment. This was your kingdom, your treasure chest, your life's work distilled into alphabetized, hand-notated cardboard. This was the Rolodex. And for 60 years, it was the physical database that ran the world. How did this simple manual device become one of the most powerful business tools ever invented? And in our age of infinite digital storage, why do some of the world's most successful people still swear by it? To understand the obsession with the Rolodex, we first have to understand the problem it solved. The simple, universal, and intensely human problem of remembering people. For centuries, the go-to solution was the little black book or the bound address book. It was personal, portable, and simple. But it had a fatal flaw. It was permanent. If a client moved, you'd have to scratch out their old address. If someone changed their name, you'd make a messy correction. And what if you ran out of space under the letter S? You were out of luck. The entire system was static, while the world of business was anything but. The system was broken and everyone knew it. They just accepted it as a fact of life. Everyone, that is, except a man named Arnold Neustadter. Neustadter wasn't a Silicon Valley wunderkind. He was a Brooklyn-born stationery innovator. The son of a man who ran a box-making company. He had a mind for mechanics and an eye for office inefficiency. In the 1930s and 40s, he ran a company called Zephyr American, and he was constantly tinkering. He'd already invented a few moderately successful products, like a spring-loaded phone number index called the Autodex. It was clever, but it was still a bound system. He knew the real solution had to be modular. It had to be fluid. The breakthrough came when he realized the answer wasn't a book at all. It was a wheel. His first attempt was called the Wheeldex. It was a series of cards arranged around a central hub, like a paddle steamer. It worked, but it was clunky. The cards were difficult to remove and reinsert. But the core idea was there: individual, removable, sortable cards. Then, in 1956, Neustadter and his team cracked the code. They designed a special card with two precise T-shaped holes at the bottom. These holes would slot perfectly onto two rails inside a rotating drum. The drum itself was mounted on a sleek, modern base, operated by two large, satisfying knobs on either side. The genius was in the simplicity. You could spin the knobs to find a card in seconds. If you needed to remove a card, you just lifted it out. No tearing, no scratching out. If you needed to add a new contact, you typed or wrote up a new card and slotted it right in perfect alphabetical order. It was dynamic, it was efficient, it was beautiful. He called it the Rolodex, a combination of rolling and index. Zephyr American filed for a patent in 1956, and by the early 1960s, the Rolodex was on its way to becoming an icon. But the success of the Rolodex wasn't just about its clever design. It was about what it represented. In the pre-digital age, information was power, and your network was your net worth, quite literally. A well-stocked Rolodex wasn't just a list of names, it was a testament to your career. Every card told a story: the pristine, freshly typed card of a new prospect, the worn, coffee-stained card of a long-term client, its corners soft from years of handling, the business card stapled hastily to a blank Rolodex card, a reminder of a chance meeting at a conference. These weren't just data points. They were relationships. This is what our digital contact lists miss. They are ruthlessly efficient, but they are emotionally sterile. On the back of a Rolodex card for a client named Bob Peterson, you wouldn't just find his phone number. You'd see a scribbled note: loves the Yankees, daughter's name is Sarah, ask about the cabin trip. This was crucial, human-centric data. This was the information that turned a cold call into a warm conversation. It was the secret weapon of the great connectors, the master salespeople, the power brokers. The physical act of flipping through the cards was itself a form of memory reinforcement. The sound, the feel, the muscle memory of turning the knob to the M section for Miller. It all created a deeper, more personal connection to the information. You didn't just search for a contact, you visited them in your mind. And so the Rolodex became a status symbol. The size of your Rolodex directly correlated with your importance. A junior associate might have a small single-wheel model with 100 cards. The CEO, on the other hand, would have a massive multi-drum behemoth on their desk, holding thousands of contacts. It was a physical manifestation of their influence. When a star salesperson left a company, one of the most contentious issues was, who gets the Rolodex? It was often considered the company's property, but the salesperson saw it as their personal work product. Battles were fought over these little boxes of cards because everyone knew they contained the keys to the kingdom. To lose your Rolodex was catastrophic. It was like a writer losing their manuscript or an artist losing their portfolio. It was a complete and total system failure. In 1986, a New York investment banker had his Rolodex stolen. He took out an ad in the Wall Street Journal offering a $500 reward, no questions asked. He said, "My life is in that Rolodex." He wasn't exaggerating. The Rolodex wasn't just for business titans either. It found its way into kitchens, home offices, and workshops. It was used for recipes, for keeping track of club members, for organizing Christmas card lists. It was the definitive analog solution for managing any kind of categorized information. For decades, Zephyr American, and later Sanford, the company that acquired it, sold millions upon millions of them. The design barely changed because it didn't need to. It was perfect. It was the undisputed king of the desk. But as the 1980s dawned, a quiet revolution was beginning to hum in offices around the world. It was the sound of the personal computer. The first shot across the bow was the spreadsheet. Programs like VisiCalc and Lotus 123 showed the power of organizing information digitally. Then came dedicated software. In 1987, a program called ACT, an acronym for Activity Control Technology, was released. It was billed as a digital Rolodex and was one of the very first customer relationship management, or CRM, systems. Suddenly, you could not only store a contact, but you could link them to calendar appointments, log call notes, and set follow-up reminders, all on a screen. The advantages were undeniable. You could search instantly, you could back up your data, you could share contacts with colleagues across a network. The decline of the Rolodex had begun. Through the 90s, the Rolodex held on, a stubborn analog warrior in an increasingly digital world. But the final blows came swiftly. The Palm Pilot put a digital Rolodex in your pocket. Email clients like Outlook integrated contact management directly into your daily workflow. And then, in 2007, the iPhone arrived, and the concept of a separate, dedicated device for contacts became obsolete overnight. Our network was now in the cloud, accessible from anywhere, synced across all our devices. The tactile, mechanical world of the Rolodex was replaced by the silent, seamless world of the algorithm. Office supply stores that once dedicated entire aisles to Rolodex models and refill cards saw demand plummet. Production slowed. The icon of the 20th century office was officially a relic. But here's where the story gets interesting. The Rolodex didn't completely die. It just went underground. In an age of digital distraction, of overflowing inboxes and thousands of friends we barely know, some people began to crave the very limitations that made the Rolodex obsolete. They began to crave its focus. Fashion designer and director Tom Ford has famously said he doesn't own a computer. He runs his empire with a landline, and you guessed it, a Rolodex. Why? Because a Rolodex is finite. You can't have 10,000 contacts on a Rolodex. Every card has to earn its place. It forces you to curate. It forces you to prioritize your most important relationships, not just accumulate connections. There's no distraction. There's no news feed. No pop-up notifications. When you consult your Rolodex, you are doing one thing and one thing only, focusing on a human connection. The writer and entrepreneur Ryan Holiday is another advocate. He argues that the physical act of writing down information on a card solidifies it in your memory in a way that typing never can. He uses a similar system of index cards, a direct descendant of the Rolodex philosophy. The value isn't just in storage, it's in the process. The process is deliberate. It requires effort, and that effort signals importance to your brain. It says, this person matters. This relationship is worth the 10 seconds it takes to write it down. That is a powerful filter in a world that constantly tells us to collect more, to connect with everyone, to never miss a thing. The Rolodex offers a radical alternative, the power of deliberate curation. So, what is the legacy of this simple spinning wheel? The Rolodex taught us the fundamentals of what we now call CRM. It taught us the importance of not just knowing who our contacts are, but knowing about them. Every note we add to a contact in our phone, met at conference, son plays soccer, is a ghost of the scribbles on the back of an old Rolodex card. The very language we use, like calling our contacts an address book, is a holdover from that physical era. The Rolodex was more than an invention. It was a philosophy that says relationships are built one at a time, that the little details matter, that true connection requires focus and effort. It was a system designed by humans, for humans, that operated at human speed. And while we may have traded its satisfying click-whir thump for the silent efficiency of the search bar, the principles it embodied are more important today than ever before. It reminds us that behind every name in our endless digital lists, there is a person, and that the most powerful business tool we will ever have isn't a device or an app. It's a genuine, well-tended human relationship. What do you think? Did you ever use a Rolodex? Do you remember your parents having one on their desk? I'm genuinely curious to hear your stories about this iconic piece of office history. Share them in the comments below. And if you believe, like we do here at Manual Mode, that there's still wisdom and value in the analog tools of the past, make sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our next exploration. What analog tool do you still use that the rest of the world has forgotten? Let us know. Thanks for watching.